Perfect. Good.
Welcome to the S3 study group. Today we have a pattern called invite change, which is being done by Juan. So handing it over to you, Juan. What does invite change have to teach us?
Thank you, Nori. Thank you much. Well, the first one is be the change, and then the next one is invite change. So I decided to do invite change because I think we all try to live by example and try to invite change in our lives. So call my attention because it's something that we really need now in what we are doing with governance and everything with the Web3, Cardano, and all the things that all the innovation patterns that we are living. So let me share a screen. Am I sharing the screen right now? Is it? Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So yes. So invite change pattern is not just a management technique or a tactic, it's a philosophy of leadership that prioritizes empowerment, dialogue, and collaboration. If we engage people in a meaningful way and ensure that transparency throughout the process, we have successful engagement and sustainable transformation for sure. This is actually based on the 7 principles of Society 3.0. So we see here all the patterns that are available in Society 3.0, and this one happened to be right here at the corner, bringing in S3 at the end. Actually, I was talking about this one. Okay, and Society 3.0 is a social technology for evolving and agile and resilient organizations in any size, for small startups to large international organizations. S3.0 is relevant for today's decentralized work environments for sure. Let me see, yeah, okay. The invite change pattern is rooted in principles of collaboration, transparency, and choice, fostering an environment where people are empowered to participate in and shape the process of change. This approach contrasts with more traditional top-down change management methods that often rely on imposition and coercion, which can lead to resistance and disengagement. And we live that all the time in the different communities that we belong to, that if we don't invite people to participate and to be part of things, there is always a barrier that is not visible, but is there. And the way to break that barrier is to bring people in with transparency. And basically, it's important to clarify when inviting change, it's crucial to clarify and articulate the why the change is required, the change is needed. And for that, this involves providing context, explaining the long-term benefits, and addressing potential challenges. Clarity reduces uncertainty. Clarity is power always. So this step builds trust and set for the foundation for more informed participation. Stakeholders are more likely to engage when they understand the reasoning behind the decision. Transparency means open sharing not only the goals and benefits, but also the constraints, risk, and challenges associated with the change. Transparency also includes ongoing communication throughout the whole process, ensuring stakeholders are kept informed and feel included. Transparency strengthens trust and helps prevent the spread of misinformation. It encourages open dialogue and creates feedback loop where concerns can be addressed before they escalate in major issues. Okay. So instead of using authority to press or pressure to force compliance, allow people to choose whether and how they want to engage. It's just that's key, is very important, and we live it every day. This creates a sense of agency and ownership over the change process. To avoid coercion, resistance to change is minimized by being transparent and open to everybody more. When people feel that they have genuine choice in the matter, they are more likely to participate with enthusiasm rather than being forced or feel that they are manipulated to be compliant. Okay, every change always will bring some kind of skepticism or resistance, especially for those who have experienced poorly managed changes in the past. You know, people that are already prepared and they come with negative mindset to the decision or to the change environment. So acknowledging this skepticism validates people's concerns and demonstrates empathy to them. So they are kind of understanding. They come from the beginning from the side of contribution. So they see, yeah, this happens to me before, but perhaps now is different because I already know and I'm open and I know everything related to this. Okay. And then basically one should openly invite critique and work to address doubts through dialogue. Dialogue is the key. Acknowledging skepticism will help to build credibility. Okay. Rather than treating the change as a top-down initiative, the initiative change pattern emphasizes the importance of involving those affected by the change in his evaluation. This means including shareholders in regular reviews, soliciting their input on the progress, and being willing to adapt based on the feedback. That's a very important part, and that's something that we see with the Catalyst. I mean, yeah, Catalyst is one of the examples, but yeah, we also see it in Intersect. You know, there is always a feedback, back and forth information, and the team in Intersect is trying to adapt and to move towards those feedback loops, and that's very useful for building trust and also building community. Okay. Those are the resources for Odin. And basically with that, thank you very much.
Thanks, Juan. I have a question to kick us off.
Sure.
So it looks like invite change is one of several patterns in the bringing in S3. And as you mentioned, like there's be the change, invite change, open space for change. Why did you pick invite change as a topic, and where can you see it being really applicable in the kinds of stuff that you're doing right now?
Yeah, I heard the first part of the question, but not the second.
Oh, why you picked it and where you're thinking it could apply in your
Oh yeah.
projects or things. Yeah.
Oh yes, right. I picked it because I saw it's something very relevant to what we need right now in every area of product work in the Web3. I think we basically with the communities, with the people that we work with, and me as a business developer, I see the need of inviting change every time I have the opportunity to talk to a company or to a shareholder, and it's important to keep in mind those little openness and the process, follow the process to do it. So it's something that we need all the time, and I picked it because it's something that how can I say that? How can I express it? Like express line to help us with what we really need right now, and the things that we do in Cardano.
Hmm.
This one
Yeah.
along with right this one as well as the check-in. Those are the things, the two that have been helping me a lot to
Mhm.
move around.
Yeah. I think these are super applicable for when we approach groups like Intersect and say, we should adopt these S3 patterns. It's like you're kind of inviting the change rather than, I like the be transparent about the reason, clarify expectations and constraints, avoid coercion or manipulation, and acknowledge any skepticism and doubts. It's almost like a formula of how to do change management in an effective way. Um,
Yeah, and also we all have witnessed the contrary. So I think having a process and a pattern to help us with that in the things that we do every day is key.
mhm.
It's a really short presentation. Actually, I make it a little longer because there were not that much material to work on. But I think it relates a lot. I had I could start talking about examples and build that from there. But I decided to work on something that I already had. So
Mhm.
so yeah, but in reality, it's more practical than anything else. What do you think?
Yeah, super practical and really topical for like when we talk about how to introduce S3 into different groups. Yeah, Randall.
It feels like it leaves. I feel left hanging with the question of we've invited change, and then how beyond the invitation, how will that change happen beyond the invitation? But the context of the invitation, the context of engaging with people and setting the cultural stage for change and setting the shared meaning of we're not necessarily sure where we will end up after the change, but setting all these things up for engagement and setting them all up for uh, shared meaning about why we're changing seems very powerful and leaves me wanting more.
Hmm. And it is a smack dab in the middle of a set of 5 patterns that comprise the bringing in S3. So there's adapt patterns to context, and then be the change. This one's invite the change, and then there's open space for change. and then they have a continuous improvement of work processes. So I think there's a process here, but all of these, just looking at the manual, all of these are super light. Like be the change is basically one sentence that says lead by example. So there's not a lot of meat there. And funnily enough, invite the change has a whole bunch. But there's also the open space for change, which kind of gets into a little bit of the how.
Yeah, it has a lot. It relates to a lot with ethics and doing the right thing, even if nobody's seeing you, seeing me. It has to do with because people trust you more when you don't have when you have clarity, when you have the transparency, when they see that there is no manipulation in anything you do and act, and also, yeah, for sure we are a skeptic, all of us, and that's when I come and hang up and with a vision of being positive and expect the best, because it's a human feeling, And then the other one is the evaluation. It's key to be part of that, because if we are not part of that, then we feel like we are left out, and we don't, or ideas are not being accounted for. So I mean, it's like a sound process. I like it a lot.
And I'm glad you highlighted this, because I'd kind of overlooked the whole set of bringing in S3 stuff. So I really like this pattern and the reminders it gives on like setting up the right atmosphere for S3 to take hold, rather than prescribing like do this pattern and that pattern and this pattern. It really is kind of more of a like clarify expectations and constraints and avoid coercion and acknowledge skepticism. So it's like upfront just saying people may be skeptical and be open to that and acknowledge it, and don't try to just skirt past it. And I like that how it connects to the other patterns that are around it too. So that kind of leads you to how do you open space for the change, and how do you be the change yourself by leading by example.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thinking the reality that we live now, I see that cryptocurrencies are around this pattern, because that's exactly what we live every day. People are skeptic because they have experiences, and they know how volatile is the industry, and so they have reasons to be very, very, very skeptic about all this. But then at the same time, the industry is been becoming strong to do and to provide tools that show different. So hopefully these coming years are going to be very, very different on that, and we don't need to worry too much about the certain things but definitely this pattern is important there, because we always have the opportunity to use it every time we are in front of someone that has a doubt about what we do, or even when you are doing your elevator pitch, this is something that you can use there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions for Juan on inviting change?
Do we have examples? Can we just expand doing some type of relating to something that happened to anybody, any of us related to this?
Mhm.
By any chance? Any of you?
I can give an example. Hold on a sec. Let me locate the right document because I want to show that. So kind of using this pattern unconsciously, I wasn't consciously aware of it, but this is kind of what we did is for the MCC, we're talking about the meetings and how to improve them and looking at some of the process around it. And one thing that I proposed was, let's start the meetings with a check-in round. And so being transparent about the reason for the change was talking about why a check-in round can be important, the tone it can set in the meeting, helping people understand how other people are showing up and things like that. And then really being explicit about it. So I'll share something. So that clarify expectation and constraints, we made it really easy. So I went through and this is the agenda. There's a check-in round. And then we said content of the check-in round. You can talk about your personal state, briefly share how you're feeling at the moment or any personal matters you wish to disclose. This could be as simple as saying, I'm feeling energized today, or I'm a bit distracted due to personal matters. Expectations for the meeting. You can talk about your hopes or concerns about the agenda, fostering alignment and setting realistic expectations. Recent achievement or challenges. Briefly mention any successes or challenges, and that could provide context to their current mindset or workload. And then any distractions or limitations, like if someone's dealing with distractions or limitations, like I mentioned earlier, my cat went missing a few days ago, or needing to leave early or not feeling well, it's a good time. So all of these questions aren't like a status update. It isn't talking about what you've been up to the last week. It's really setting that kind of mental context for how you're checking in and sharing anything that might be relevant for people to kind of understand how you're showing up. So if you get distracted or angry or have to leave, they kind of have that context and they go, oh, they must be dealing with that. So it kind of helps each person settle into the meeting and let others know how they're arriving. And we wanted to do this and we kind of implemented it. And it wasn't like this must be done. We tried it on and got some feedback. And it has really opened up the meeting. Like everybody leaned into it. They seemed to be happy to participate, and it really changed the tone. And it got everybody to at least talk too, because there are some meetings where some people didn't say anything the whole time. So it's kind of a nice way to check in. And the MCC now has community members who are just observing and show up. And we often ask them to check in as well, just to see where they're coming from and why they're there and what they're hoping to gain from observing the meeting. So I think it's a really nice way of engaging people. So that's an example of how we introduced one sociocracy pattern and kind of, yeah, we kind of follow the steps of kind of the be transparent, clarify expectations and constraints, etc. So yeah, I think it's a useful pattern to think about when you're introducing new things.
Definitely. Yeah, it happened to me as well in ICC, Intersect CC group. And the first meeting, the first thing I did, actually was the first thing I did was to propose use the check-in. And it's been, as you mentioned, it's been very successful because it makes sense, bring people in, they share how they feel, and the issues that they have, as you mentioned with your cat, and that change the perception of it makes it more human, more you're talking to a human being, and You are not addressing a situation, but you are the holistic thing. So that's very powerful. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great. Good point. Do you have any experiences on that, Randall, by any chance?
The experiences I have around change are largely negative examples of change being forced upon people, and it's not productive to talk about particular cases, but I think we all have some experiences that show how show the differences between change being enforced or pushed on people versus change that involves people. Yeah.
I see.
And in some ways, kind of the decentralized spaces that we tend to operate in, there's no top down there usually. So adopting patterns like this kind of by default, you have to do it through like inviting the change and then making space for it and things like that. And I think they're useful skills to learn. And yeah, because we all have examples from some of those hierarchical top-down organizations where somebody's like, we're going to institute this new process or this new thing, and there's a whole change management process around it, and everyone gets training, and ultimately it fails because they didn't get buy-in all the way up and down. And so yeah, I think we've all experienced some of those situations, so it's kind of cool to see some of these more decentralized, how do we do it in a peer-to-peer space or a network space or a decentralized space.
Yeah, this pattern is part of bringing in S3, and I was wondering for the other three, which are adapt pattern to context, open space for change. Oh, you already spoke about that one, I think, and what's the name of that one? CL of work process. So my question is how that relate to bringing in this S3. And
Mhm. Yeah, I see at least the three middle ones of be the change, invite the change, and open space for change is kind of this triple kind of one is you, one is holding the space, and then the open space is really how do you hold that space so people can experiment and come up with their drivers. And I thought open space for change was kind of a verb, but reading it, it's like it says schedule regular open space events. So maybe it's talking about using open space for change. Just reading through that. So that's interesting. And maybe we can take on that pattern at a later study group. And then continuous improvement of work processes looks like a very deep and interesting stuff because it talks about waste and continuous improvement. So it's really looking at some of those agile principles and borrowing things from Toyota and software development and Kanban retrospectives, navigating the attention. There's a lot of juicy stuff in there. So that might be a good one too.
yes. Yeah, now that I opened your link, I noticed that it says, I mean, this is very it's very it's too much. It has a lot to do with this continuous improvement of work process. Yeah, it's the other one that I didn't realize what it was, and they actually can be done together, I think.
Mhm.
The other thing
Yeah.
that's coming up for me here around this pattern is the when you would like to see change, and you don't want to be an instigator of a forced change, but you see a need for it. The part of the process, Juan, that you described around showing people reasons isn't about the reasons that you may feel. It's about the reasons that most people are going to recognize as being true and present reasons, true and present concerns, true and present problems, while also showing how maybe some people feel some problems and other people do not, but it feels like this pattern helps people see the problems that affect others as well as themselves. And it feels like it's important to set to the side any preconceptions about what solutions may be, but focus on opening that space to invite people to be involved and recognize the problems. Oh, that was long.
Yeah, I think that gets to like the one lead-in sentence to the pattern invite change is here. It's like inviting rather than imposing change helps reduce resistance and enables people to choose for themselves. And I think that's a really nice way of introducing some stuff. And then the next one around opening space for it is really how do you enable people to experiment and propose things to try and things like that. So it starts to get them more involved in the actual change process.
Yeah. And it's not it's not an easy it's not an easy job to encourage people to participate. You know, sometimes, I mean, that's why it has to come from inside out. It has to come from them. It has to come from asking them what they like and what they have, what their opinion on this, and then yeah, just find a common denominator and then present whatever it is that is being the change. But it always starts with from listening, from active listening and making people participate. That's why the check-in is so powerful. And like actually, this is one of the reasons I think S3 is so successful and so important for what we are living right now as a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that this is all about the set of patterns around how to bring S3 in. So really thinking about not forcefully dropping it in, or I think I was reading the book on holacracy, and they have a lot of good stuff in there, but it's designed so that you have to bring in the entire holacracy constitution at one thing, and it's this whole set of practices and principles. And that might be good for a big bang thing, but I like that S3 can take a gradual approach and you can try things out and get more comfortable and bring in other patterns and then as we said in other study groups, the more patterns you bring in, the more powerful it becomes. Like they're kind of synergistic and they build on each other. And so eventually you're going to want to like look at a whole bunch of different patterns that you can use because they all reinforce and make each other stronger.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, by encouraging participation and rather than imposing anything to anybody, it reduces resistance, empowers individuals to do things instead of forcing them to do it, and foster collaboration, which is the most important part in communities, especially that's one of the challenges that I see we have now, because we can pull a lot of people, we can pull, there is a lot of people involved and motivated and energized, but then with time, like everything else with communities, people with start settling down and be less present to the things. So that's the big challenge we have with all this process, that to keep up growing and having people involved. And I think this is the key for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I appreciate you picking this pattern this week. That's a nice one to dig into a bit.
Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Mm-hmm.
So
What a lovely surprise.
I wish to be honest, I wish to have more time to prepare. Even though, but it's like everything else. If I don't do it this way, I won't do it any better. So
Yeah, I think we all
Yeah.
feel that way. But thanks, Juan. That was great.
Thank you.